Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Trident Talks. I'm Sean Hendon, head of the cyber vendor team. Delighted today to be joined by David Brown, the CEO of Countercraft. Hi David, how are you?
I'm well, Sean. How about you?
Yeah, really good. Thanks for joining me today. Kind of a little brief for everyone. We are currently running a series on startups and how they kind of grow and build into new locations. David's kindly agreed to join us and kind of give his insight and advice and do's and don'ts into what to do. He's been in a number of startups and scale ups and kind of been there and done it. Recently moved from CRO role to CEO role. So also congratulations on that. I know we spoke about it off camera just now. Interesting. We won't go into it now, but we spoke about how much your job has changed and how much of a bird's eye view of the entire business you have now. So interesting and kind of quite insightful to hear some of the stuff you're now involved in. So just aside from just revenue, right? Gone from being very revenue focused to actually I need to worry about everything else. So
how do you still focus on the revenue? The revenue,
revenue is still key, right? Still there to make money.
Absolutely, yeah. Everybody's got to get paid.
Yeah,
everybody's got to get paid. And actually, the biggie is, it's not just making sure all our sales guys take home a healthy commission check. It's everybody else in the company has significant others, rent, food. None of that's getting easier. There's a lot more mouths to feed now in this role.
Yeah, agreed. Well, good luck with it. Sounds like you're doing a good job so far. So keep up the good work. So I want to touch on startups today. Obviously, you're currently involved in one, doing really well. Sounds like Countercraft I hear their name everywhere. I'm hearing good things. The tech is amazing.
I'm typing people left, right, and centre to say nice things about us, but thank you.
I want to talk about your experience in startups coming from, let's say, the US or let's say elsewhere, right? I think Countercraft's quite an interesting one because you guys are actually not headquartered in the US, you're headquartered in Spain. But you do have presence in the US. So how's that from your side? How's that been? Joining a European company, shall we say, that have a global presence? What challenges did you face initially? Like inheriting, let's start from day one. You've come in and inherited a team. What are kind of the first things that you look at in how to make the business a success and how to build the revenue? I know there's a list of a million things, but if you're going to give us some top tips.
Well, yeah, give the hot tips. So I think you start off with, so I've worked for US-based companies, I've worked for European-based companies. The one we were chatting off screen about when I sold, helped to sell Security Matters. We were based in Eindhoven in the Netherlands. Sold that to a US-based company, and yeah, you're right. I've been the first boots on the ground as well. I think that there's a couple of bits to understand. So the first one is like, where are you going to place your bets? So whether you're thinking about where you're going to place your bets in Europe or EMEA, and where you're going to place your bets in the US. So all markets are not equal. The first thing I hate to say, the really geeky bit, is you've got to go start looking at data, because data drives everything. If you come into a business that's already established, like the one I've got that I run now, somebody made best decisions that they thought at any given time and put all sorts of people on the board. And actually, with the benefit of data and experience, you turn up and say, well, actually, would I place my bets there? And so we're based in Spain. We've got a local Spanish market, but if I was coming in from the US and I was looking at Europe as a whole, would I invest in a sales team in Spain at the start? Yeah, probably not, actually. And it would depend on what market I would want to be addressing. So, start off, if I'm looking at an enterprise market, it's really easy to say, so where's the money being spent, Sean? Where's the money being spent? It's been spent in UK Nordics, it's been spent in DACH, it's been spent in France, Then it's been merged all over Southern Europe. And I haven't mentioned, Middle East. Middle East would be my third market after UK, Nordics, DACH, Middle East. Then you go back into France and all the others. And you only really find that out if you start looking at data that's relevant to you. So if I'm on an enterprise sale, why would I not go place a whole bunch of people in Spain and then put them in Italy and put them in Portugal? It's because when you look at who am I going to sell to, and I sell to enterprise, tier 1, tier 2 financial services and manufacturing, you'd realize that pretty soon when you look at the companies in that space, in those geographies, you run out quite quickly. So that means you're now looking at a different market, mid-market, still pretty significant can be. But if you're looking at a mid-market play, different price points, different ways to buy, all sorts of things, it's a different team. And so I typically lump Southern Europe for an enterprise sale together and have one team, small team, whatever, looking after all of those, just because of the depth of the market that's available to me there. I'll place more bets in the UK because I've got a decent financial services and manufacturing enterprise sell to there. DACH, industrial powerhouse and all the rest of it. Yeah, of course I'm going to double down on my investment there. And then when I look at the Middle East, we were chatting beforehand about the Middle East. I'm a bit focused on that at the moment. You say, it's Middle East, it's Middle East. No, actually, Saudi, biggest market, different to UAE, different to Egypt. Those are my three largest markets in the Middle East. And there's a mistake in thinking it's all the same. And there's different nuances to each one. So the first thing, I start off the boring bit, look at the data and decide where I'm going to place my bets with people. Same in the US. Where would I have a financial services guy, or where would I put my my federal team? And again, that's a bit different pre-COVID, post-COVID, and in the middle of COVID. In the middle of COVID, federal team in the US, everybody migrated up to Florida because, it's nice and sunny. Better quality of life, cheaper homes, all the things that you'd want to go do. And now we're all meeting up again. Does that mean you jump on planes every week to negate that quality of life thing to get back and meet all the people who are still in the Washington and Virginia areas? No. It all changes in time, doesn't it? So I think the first thing I'd say is where you're going to place your bets. And you have to base that on data, and you have to base that on the type of market that you're chasing after.
Yeah, thanks for that. It's really interesting. I think I've seen this before, and I'm sure you have. And I think that's where hiring an experienced kind of sales leader in the first instance when you're going into new markets is key, because if you don't have experience in doing it, it's very hard to get it right. And I see a lot of founders or say VP of sales or CROs in foreign countries. So let's say we're a startup coming from the US into EMEA. They don't understand the markets. And a lot of what you've just touched on there about the likes of Germany being big on the industrial side, right? Like they wouldn't know that, or maybe they would, but not in the granular detail you need to in order to build that market. And they kind of just put a finger in the air and go, right, we're going to set up an office in the UK and do EMEA from there. And that doesn't always work, or very rarely works, right? Unless you've got an amazing product that sells itself. But we know nowadays that the market is super, super competitive. Do you think it's important to have people within each of these locations, like on the ground? Is that a necessity, or can you do it from centralized locations within pockets of Europe?
Kind of depends on your product and the market that you're addressing. So, we talked about COVID and that changed. So everybody having to do calls like this and doing it remotely. So that sort of took away. And I feel now that relationships are sort of more important. The pendulum is swinging. I think you need to have a bit more being there than we had in the past, but we're all qualifying where and when you are there better. because we've all discovered lives and hobbies and things, and none of that is bad. None of that is bad. But culturally, do we need to be there? Can you mix an English speaker and have them be successful at giving a technical demonstration in Germany to a German manufacturer? I think now, actually, yes, you can, because we all got educated in COVID times as somebody would come on a screen like this and do that presentation. Will you miss nuances? Yeah, you will, but it gives you more options too. The bit that it really becomes hard to fake is building the empathy that you need to do as part of a sales process. So I'd argue now that actually the sales engineering part is good if you can have local language, but it's not as essential as it used to be. But building empathy and building out your network and decision-making process, yeah, I think you really do need to have local people, because you've got to do all of that old-fashioned network. And I think the data I've been reading this year, with it being a down year, especially in cyber, the decision team that decides whether they're going to go ahead with your project or not is grown by 30%. Nobody wants to be the person that buys something that's a duff project, be seen to, because there might not be the easy availability of their next job if it all goes wrong. So they're naturally more secure. There's a lot more scrutiny on spend, and it's really hard to juggle that kind of sales process by getting your 30-minute call with whoever on one of these Zoom team calls or whatever. You've got to be there to do the networking, to find a decision team, to coach them through the procurement process. So I think the seller's side, the relationship side, yeah, it's really important that they are there in territory and country. The technical support, possibly less so, but it's never really a great look if you can't field somebody for a meeting anywhere in Europe and they have to come from the US to do that. That's never a great look.
Yeah.
And vice versa. And when we're dealing with the Middle East, same thing. It's not a good look if you can't show to your customer that you can't support it locally. Throws in the other bit, of course, it doesn't have to be you. You can look at your direct and indirect channels.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Like, do you believe that getting a channel of some sort involved from early on is key? Like, yeah,
it's super critical. So you can waste a lot of time in dancing with the wrong people. That's cool. Yeah, there has to be a win-win in all of this. A lot of people also forget about how many tiers are you going to run in your distribution channel. So I typically would go for a 2-tier system because it gives me force multiplication. That's the easy way of doing it. In the Middle East, I've got a VAD. I think I've probably got one of the best. I'd say there's three major VADs in the Middle East as a geography. I've got one of them, and I think it's probably the best fit for us. And that gives me reach. So that gives me somebody who can recruit best partners for us to go work with, can tell me whether it's, an easy product adjacency for them. They can provide me with local support in terms of local engineers I can train. So all of a sudden I've got a product proof of concept going on at the moment. My VAD gives me an engineer who can go in to customer site and talk Arabic and talk to everybody about what we're doing, how we're doing it, and do the work there. And then I've got a guy running the relationship, and that makes sense. Everybody can play a part. The bit you can't forget is you can't abdicate allowing them to do the selling, and you can't abdicate thinking that you don't have to feed and support the VAD, because or my partner is, that's a mistake everybody seems to make, because not only do I have competition in terms of every other company I compete with, but I've also got competition for their mind share from everybody else who uses them as a partner. who might make their life easier to sell a bigger deal and therefore a bigger commission check than mine. So I've got to try and make everything easy. And as you know, if you're talking to early stage companies and startups, we do like to make it complex and difficult at the start, and actually unwinding that to make it simple so that somebody else can explain it, through the barrier of different language, and that's a bit that takes a bit of hard work.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, like right at the start, then, just saying how critical it is, because I hear it so often when startups go into new territories and they're just so focused on direct selling. I hear it all the time, and it still like blows my mind that there's not that focus on channel and partners. Because like you say, if you manage those relationships correctly and you are helping your partners to sell product, then it's kind of like someone's doing the work to a certain degree while you're not having to do it, right? Still feed them with information, still keep them completely up to date, and but just to not have a channel or a partner network nowadays is, I think,
so your business is growing while you're asleep. I think that was the old adage people used to use. But yeah, it gets worse than that. So you go do the direct selling, then you bring a partner, then a lot of times you end up with this, but my direct salesperson is now in competition. They want to keep the deal because theoretically they think they'll take home more commission dollars than they would if it went through a partner. It might slow down their deal. It won't. It should speed it up. And it's very myopic. And it also creates feelings of ill trust with your partners, because can I trust you now? If I find an opportunity, you're going to steal it away from me, so I don't want to work with you. So you end up with a negative reputation. Your brand equity goes down. You lose. I'd say my experience would tell you that if you get your partner channel and you invest in them early on, so you give them opportunities, you give them, here's your first sale, here's your first bit of commission. I'm somebody you can work with and trust. I'll always make sure that you, Mr. Partner, get paid on this, because you can arrange your commission scheme however you want to incentivize behavior. If you do that 3 times, my rule of thumb is in the early stages, I'll get at least 3 times the business back that I give to whoever the partner is. I recruited a friend to come in and help me build out the channels here. And what's my number one source of new opportunities is partners. I'll tell you by far my number one source of new opportunities that outstrips my SDR activity, that outstrips my marketing activity now, is my partners. And I can see that hockey sticking up, because we spent the time and the effort to make sure we fed them, we support them, we train them, we'll stick to our word in terms of what we'll deliver with them. And yeah, it ramps up really, really quickly. It ramps up exponentially.
Yeah, I agree. I'm on your side with this. I think companies that don't do it miss a trick. And my final question was to you, which I think probably just answered, is what is one of the most important things to do when you start, in terms of like day one or at least week 1, month 1, to help enable sales as quickly as possible? What would that be? And I think probably partners, right?
Yeah, partners. Simplify it, and then try and simplify it a bit more. It's shrink it down. Problem is, you can't boil the ocean. You need to get people successful quickly, because as soon as somebody is successful quickly, they'll start to make some money. Everybody feels a little bit better. You've got a referenceable customer, because that's always the first thing in the market. Who can you point to as a reference? You've got to buy that, do whatever you've got to do to get that referenceable customer. Make sure one of the key indicators is they agree to be a reference. They will be a shining beacon of here's what you can do, and then love them and support them and make sure that they are. Don't lose that. But simplify it. Sean, it is. We all live in complex worlds. if we work in an early stage, we've probably got a super complex problem to solve in a super complex way. But now you're looking at somebody 2 or 3 levels of application away that has to be able to deliver an elevator pitch to qualify an opportunity as to why they should be talking to you. And it's simplifying it. And you might have language in between, so how do you make that message resonate when you're not delivering it to somebody in Saudi or France or Germany or wherever? It's simple.
Thank you. I think we'll leave it there because I've taken up enough of your time, and I appreciate your insight. But look, really, really, really good kind of conversation and good insight. And look, we've only touched on it, right? We could probably speak for another hour, but I'm conscious of time. So thanks for your time today, and wish you well with the continued success at Countercraft. And good luck.
Thank you very much.